Hi everyone, this is Heather Lofton from the Flourish.Academy. This is episode 191, and as you know, a few days ago I was able to get my hands on a brand new Profoto A1 flash/studio light courtesy of our good friends YM Camera in Boardman, Ohio. They allowed me to borrow their copy. You can't find these yet. They will be released in December, but I was able to play with one this weekend and I had my first session with one. So I just wanted to give you my initial thoughts and how it went, and it started like this. I opened the box and I took out the trigger, the Profoto Air TTL trigger, and I mounted it on the hot shoe of my D750. Now for this photo session, I shot exclusively with my Tamron 70-200 lens. It was fantastic, but I mounted this on and I thought, okay, I'm not gonna read any of the instructions. I'm not even gonna open the manual. Oh, look, proof. Here's proof. I have not yet opened this manual. It is sealed. And the reason is I want to determine ease of use. I want to see just how intuitive this is. Okay, so I mounted the trigger and I turned on the camera, turned on the trigger. There it was, turned on. And then I turned on the unit by pressing this button and then spinning the dial to turn it on. So there it is. It's currently in manual mode, set to that power of 2. You can see that, and it says this here. Okay, I did nothing else. Put the trigger on, mounted it, turned everything on, and then I fired a shot, and it worked. What? Okay, this is a big deal, and if you think this isn't a big deal because of course it should work, Heather, when you turn it on. Oh, but have you played with a variety of flashes and triggers before? You tried to turn them on and you had to jump through hoops to get them to work or sync them up? No, right out of the gate, I did nothing. I turned it on and it fired. I was so happy with that. Very, very simple user interface on the back. Very few buttons and they all make sense. So I can change this on the side. I shot predominantly, no, not even predominantly. Okay, here's what happened. Ella had her friends over. Ella's 15. She had about 6 teenage girls here. And I was like, woo! They wanted me to run them around and I said, I will gladly do that if you will model for me later while I test out my flash. And they were super gracious, but I shot probably 50% of the session in TTL and 50% of the session in manual. So TTL, essentially auto mode, right? And then it will select the output based on what the camera tells it needs. So obviously I have a Nikon mount here because when we're communicating data, it has to speak the same language. So you have to have Nikon for Nikon, Canon for Canon, etc. But then I was, oh, and it shows me on here, it did that. I was able to use the TTL flash compensation just by spinning the dial. So I think you can see that, how that's changing. And that was pretty useful. I used that a few times. And then I would just flip it into manual and just change the output. It goes all the way up to 10. Let me tell you something about 10. I played with it at this session. Are you ready for this? 10. You might want to not look directly in the flash. I mean, it lights up the sky. It is very bright. And to some degree, I was able to overpower the sun with this light. Okay, I'm not talking about the sun at noon straight up overpowering the sun. So this was late afternoon, maybe 4:30, but I was able to balance this light with the sun and I was pretty impressed by that. Okay, so when I took it out in the field, I mounted it on my tripod and I just started shooting. And I approached these things, let me back up. For those of you that don't know me, I am a wedding and portrait photographer. At my weddings, I use off-camera flash extensively. So typically I'll have a flash on camera and 2 off camera at a reception, for instance. But during my portrait sessions, I am a natural light photographer. And I've really never, I don't know, meshed the two. I have attempted to take my off-camera lighting setup that I use at weddings and use it in my portrait sessions, and it just never worked for me. I appreciate natural ambient light. I think that it looks nice, it's easier, it's more straightforward, but we live in Western Pennsylvania, and in Western Pennsylvania, we just can't be dependent on the weather. That would be very restrictive. So what I'm trying to accomplish, and I think what Profoto is trying to accomplish, is sort of bridge the gap between studio lighting or that off-camera flash setup with a Nikon or Canon and natural light photography. And I think they've done it really well with this round head because it did make a difference. The light was softer and more natural looking. Oh, and by the way, I just finished editing this session. So I'm putting together a video that shows the before and after without the flash, obviously with the flash, and you'll be able to see it. Craig took some video of me while I was shooting, and I'm gonna compile that all together with the photos that I finished editing. Hi, Brian. Yeah, we can't depend on the weather. And you know, we love, and I noticed you just posted a photo, a beautiful photo of a bride and groom that were backlit beautifully by the sun, which is exactly what we enjoy, but we cannot depend on. Well, we can create it. I sent some initial photos immediately to my good friend Nicole Begley, and I said, look at this. I created the sun. There's one particular image where it looked exactly like a sunset. That reminds me. Towards the end of the session, as I was shooting this in manual mode and just kind of messing around, also messed around with the beam. So you see where it says A1 there, and you see that beam? You can change the beam, whether that's wide or narrow, and actually that little graphic changed as I was zooming this to show you the beam. You know, if you want to come out at a wider beam or a more narrow beam, you need it to reach further. I had a group of about 7 girls, so when I was shooting them as a group, I put this as wide as it would go, and it was great. It reached them. And then when I was just shooting one, I could narrow that beam a little bit. Okay, towards the end of the session, we had completely lost light. It wasn't sunset quite yet, but there was a lot of cloud cover, very overcast, and it was very, very boring, flat, plain lighting. Yuck, not appealing at all. So I have this light, I have it mounted on the tripod, I put it behind them, and I decide to gel it. I want to put a gel on it. So I grabbed this little gel kit, very, very nice. And now remember, I hadn't read the manual or the instructions, and I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, we're gonna figure this out. So I opened this up, and of course, carefully, the gels are inside of here, and it comes with 4 gels. We have full CTO, half CTO, quarter CTO, and green. And I decided to go for the half CTO, that stands for color temperature orange. So I grabbed this one, and it says right here, this comes with it, it says Profoto gel holder. And I'm thinking, okay, perfect. I'm gonna put this gel in here, and then it's magnetic and it will attach to the unit. And I'm trying to fit it in and feeling not so bright. And I thought, well, this is what happens when you don't read the manual. And Craig grabbed it from me, and he said, he didn't read the manual. He doesn't know anything about this. And he said, don't you see those 2 little dots? Doesn't that tell you something? And I said, yeah, of course it tells me something. To me, I know how to do it. And then I figured out that it opened. It opens, and then you can place the gel inside of there, and you line up those little dots, find that little dot, line up the little dots. Hard to do and hold it up at the same time, but it just fit. I can't hold it up and do it. It just fits in there much easier than I'm making it look. But once Craig figured it out, boom, there we go. We have the gel in. Brian is asking, are the gels included or do you have to purchase afterwards? That is a good question. I am not sure. I feel like they might be included. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure. Okay, so then we have this, and then boom, right on there. Isn't that so nice? So I used this behind the girls, and I added some rim lighting to their hair, sort of from an angle. I had Craig hold it up really high and point it down, and it looked like the sun. It was beautiful. It was the perfect color. And the area that I was shooting in happened to know where the sun sets on that particular scene. And I had Craig put it right there, and it looks like my other shots that I've taken there with the sun setting. Karen says, what do you use to teach OCF workshop? Flashes. I use flashes to teach the off-camera workshop. Nikon or Canon flashes, Karen, any flash you have really. I mean, teaching it with this, the next time we have the OCF workshop, I'm definitely gonna have this with me and teach with it. Oh, also, lithium ion battery. right here. I really like that. I charged it. I gave it a full charge. Recycle times were fast. They'll say it lasts for 350 full power shots. And to be honest, the chances of you using this at full power are actually pretty slim, at least for me, my type of photography, because full power is really, really bright. So, okay, I have these gels on, right? And then I did this towards the end of the session when I wanted that sunset look. Okay, back to the beginning of the session. I'm out there, everything is firing good. I have my trigger. Oh, and by the way, I use this all exclusively off camera for this particular session. I do have a wedding this weekend and I'm hoping to test it on camera as well as off camera. Oh my goodness, in an ideal world, I'd have 2 of them because this can act as a trigger. So if I put this one on my camera and had a second one off camera, then they could communicate beautifully. That would be in a perfect world. Okay, but anyway, I'm gonna try it on camera. So at the beginning of the session, we go out there and I have this, you know, the bare flash head, and I'm thinking, I wanna add that diffuser. I wanna diffuse this a little bit and make it a little bit softer. So, you know, Robbie gave me this whole kit to play with, and I am looking everywhere for the diffuser. I know that he gave it to me, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, did I lose that diffuser already? I just got the flash. He's gonna kill me. I'm looking, searching all around. I actually went back to the live Q&A video that Robbie and I did because he was playing with it. I saw him put it with the unit and I can't find it. Oh, I'm freaking out. I was about to call him and I had the unit in its case, and I thought, why is there this big space right here? That seems kind of strange. And I start digging around. Oh, it's magic. Look, there's a diffuser. This, Brian, I know this does come with the unit, this diffuser. How about that? It was right in front of me the whole time. So I used this for a significant portion of my session, and I really liked it. I like to diffuse light. It's pretty rare that I use sort of the bare bulb look, but anyway, a few other things. I'm going to turn this back on. It does have a modeling light. What I really like about this modeling light is if you set the power, it will actually change the output. It's an LED. It will change the output of it so you can really see, and it will also change the zoom. So it's kind of not a generic modeling light that just sort of gives you a general idea. It's more specific than that, which I thought was pretty neat. I started pressing all kinds of buttons on here because I figure, what the heck? So I press this button and I see this, I know that's reflective, I'm sorry. I see this menu. There are 2 pages to this menu, so it's pretty straightforward. And really, while I was out there shooting, I did not need to access the menu at all, which reminds me. Okay, now this is huge. Brace yourselves. When Leanne and I teach the off-camera flash workshop, we often run into this problem with high-speed sync. So most cameras and flashes will only sync up to 1/200th or 1/250th of a second before you get a black bar in your images because of the difference between the shutter speed and the flash output. So this has high-speed sync capabilities. Not all cameras do and not all flashes do. You obviously have to find the right combination. Well, as a natural light photographer who will be utilizing this outdoors, it is absolutely 100% imperative to me, must-have feature, high-speed sync, because there are often times where I will be shooting faster than 1/200th of a second. Imperative, like not even an option. If it doesn't have it, I don't want to deal with it. Okay, so I thought to myself, is there anywhere that I need to set that up, you know, the high-speed sync? I do have my D750 set up under the custom menu. Let me see, I don't know if I can find that quickly enough, but to utilize high-speed sync. And I think it's probably under bracketing and flash. Yes. Bracketing flash on the D750. You see that FP, so I have mine set to 1/250th of a second FP. FP means focal plane high-speed sync, essentially. That just means the Nikon D750 can utilize high-speed sync if the flash has that capability. Not all cameras have this, not all flashes have it. You have to have the right combination. Well, okay, I knew I had this set on the D750 for the FP, the 1/250th FP, which means it can utilize high-speed sync. What I didn't know was if anywhere on here, I would have to tell it that I was using high-speed sync. So while I was shooting outside, I noticed that when the camera, I shot in both aperture priority and manual mode. I went back and forth between the two on the camera, and I noticed that when I was in aperture priority and the shutter speed went faster than 1/250th of a second, on the back of this unit, it automatically said high S for high speed sync. That blew my mind. That was really awesome that it knew, because it knew the shutter speed, because they're communicating off camera, they're communicating. The camera told the flash, I mean, I think it was like a conversation that went something like, hey, yo, I need you to fire in high speed sync because the shutter speed is faster than 1/250th of a second. And the flash said, absolutely, I will do that for you. And the camera said, much obliged, friend. And they worked together very nicely. And then when it was not at that shutter speed, so if it was 1/250th and below, then that wasn't there. So it wasn't using high speed sync. It automatically detected high speed sync because I had that set on the D750. Now, I'm not sure what would have happened if I did not have FP set in the custom menu on the D750. I don't know. I didn't test that. All I know is it worked beautifully and perfect, and it blew my mind. I was so, so happy about that. Okay, my initial impressions of this are extremely favorable. The truth is, I want 2 of them. I need 2 of these because it would be, and then I actually wouldn't need this because, well, it's nice to have it. This is nice to have. This is separate. To have the trigger. Look at, I mean, it just works every time. I also want to say, you might think of, if you've not shot with off-camera flash, you might be thinking to yourself, well, I would expect it to work every time. But the reality is that in the field when you're working, if you're working with triggers and flashes, they don't fire every single time. There's a miscommunication, something happens. Who knows? I don't know. I can't get in the mind of these flashes. This one never missed a beat. I felt like I was really pushing it too. I mean, I was firing pretty quickly. I was changing all kinds of things. I barely knew what I was doing, and it worked every single time. I can't wait for you guys to see these images. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm done editing the session, so I'm putting that together with the video that Craig took so you can see the whole scene, how we were shooting, the before and after, and I think you're gonna love it. Let me know if you have any specific questions on this unit or what your initial thoughts are, because I am loving it. And I'm not just saying that because they let me borrow one. You know, in the review world, people are like, I don't know, is it an honest review because they got the unit for free? Okay, false, negative. I don't own this. This is not mine. I will return it. So they didn't give me anything for free. They're just kind enough to let me borrow it so I can test it for you guys and we can see if it's something that we like, which is really, really nice of them. But all of my opinions are 100% my own. And when I find something I don't like, you will be the first to know. Oh, I did find something that was kind of like, okay, it's not that I didn't like it because who cares? The lock mechanism is the opposite of what I'm used to. Like, who cares? But I had to twist it to the left instead of the right. And that made me think for a second. That was it. That's the only thing that I was like, yeah. Oh, Brian says he wants 2 of them so bad. He's trying not to get gear acquisition syndrome. Me too, Brian. They let me play with this and I'm going to have to return it, which is going to be really sad. Ultimately, I am most likely going to purchase one, if not 2 of these units, because I'm really impressed. Now, that being said, I do need to put it through its paces at a wedding because I'm a little concerned about the battery life at a reception. I don't want to have to buy an extra battery. I want to be able to charge this and use it at a reception, the entire reception, which for me is probably 2 to 3 hours of shooting with the flash. Not at full power, but I'll just be interested to see how it plays out in terms of the battery life. So what I'm going to do is if I'm allowed to hang on to this through my next couple of weddings, is I'm going to take my Nikon and Canon flashes with me and have them in my bag obviously, and then I'm going to be using this one. I'm going to fully charge it and see how long it lasts. Now the reason I have both Nikon and Canon flashes is because the way I work a wedding is I have the SB 900, 910, whatever it is, on my camera, and I have two Canon 580 EX2s off camera. I just had those from my old Canon days, so I didn't bother to sell them because I primarily shoot my off-camera flash in manual mode, not in TTL. So I'm going to experiment with this on and off camera in both manual and TTL. The only problem is that at receptions, I really like to fire both on and off camera, and I can't do that with this because I only have one unit. If I could get my hands on two, that would be really nice, but these are kind of hard to come by right now. I feel very honored to have this opportunity. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Let me know what your questions are or what you'd like me to do with it. I'll see you in the next video.